Hey guys, my name is Ray, and today's the day that we're going to be talking about this right here. Is this Ghost? And if it is Ghost, why he's going to die? Now, I know this is a dark way to open up, but let's just dig right into this because this is going to be crazy. Now, I know that most of you guys, like me, are direwolf fans. We feel that the Starks and the direwolves have been given a rotten hand, right? Like, they've been done dirty by the producers and George R. Martin. But guess what? That's why we love the Starks, because they are the underdogs, or in this case, the underwolves. Now, to be honest, this saddens me to have to say this, because I honestly do believe it to be true. Like I said, if this is Ghost, there is a 100,000 million billion gazillion percent chance that he is going to die. I have no doubt in my mind that he's going to die. I don't see a scenario where he survives. I mean, the only way that Ghost would survive a battle in the upcoming season is if Benjen comes out of nowhere, starts swinging his fireball, and puts Ghost on a horse. And we know that's not happening. So you definitely know that this is effed up. But like I said, this is going to be crazy because I'm going to dig into every direwolf's past, right? And why I think they Ghost, if indeed this is Ghost and he is going into battle, this is why I believe he is going to die. Now, in the past, we have heard and seen of Robb fighting in battle with Grey Wind, and it sounds all epic. It sounds insane. In the books, they even say that he rides the wolf, and it's crazy, and people have like this crazy fear of this direwolves. Of course, in the books, the direwolves are way bigger than they are on the show, but it's like this mythical thing, these direwolves, right? And in the show, they are the same, right? Because we did see when Jon died, they were like, oh, does the direwolf know you? But the direwolf wasn't enough to fight these dudes. Now, we have seen a direwolf versus some whites, not like 100,000 whites or whatever, just a few. And you know, poor Summer didn't last not even 10 seconds. Like, it was bad. She just like gnarled and then like she was dead. So let's look back at the direwolves and how they have bitten the dust. Now, I know that a lot of you know that the direwolves are basically tied with the Starks and kind of where they are at life, right? For example, you look at Sansa. Sansa's is very interesting because Sansa at the beginning of the story really didn't embrace her Stark side the way that, you know, you would think maybe like the other Starks do. She was always trying to change up a little bit, be a little bit more on the southern side of her family, you know what I mean? She wanted to be queen, she wanted to go to King's Landing, she was all for that. And basically, as we saw down the line, that kind of cost her direwolf. And we see that Lady down the line dies on their way to King's Landing. So next up, you have Robb, right? We see that Robb goes everywhere with Grey Wind. Grey Wind here, Grey Wind there. And the lore of Robb, King Robb of the North, builds up the more he has his direwolf around him. It is insane. Like, it is like you think of Robb and you think of Grey Wind. That's how close they are. We even see when he's trying to put the fear of God in Jaime when he has him hostage with the direwolf, right? Like, Jaime's like this really strong dude. He's like, you know, Jaime is Jaime Lannister, you know, the Kingslayer. Like, this is Jaime at the height of his powers, and Jaime fears the direwolf. So the direwolves are a big thing in this story. And it's funny because in the books they tend to kind of make a bigger thing of it, and it's that we see that Robb little by little starts, you know, distancing himself from Grey Wind. He doesn't want him around as much because Grey Wind doesn't like certain people around him. Well, basically, we see what happens at the Red Wedding, and we also know what happened to poor Grey Wind. He was a head on Robb's body, and it ended up very, very badly, right? Again, this team seems to be a trend when Starks are kind of disassociating themselves with their side of like the Stark line of family, right? Like, the further they get away from that and embrace it less, it seems like the direwolves are in more danger. All right, so let's move on next to Shaggy Dog. Shaggy Dog, we did see Shaggy Dog die, or we saw that he did die, but it happened off camera, and it was at the hands of the Umbers, the traitorous bastards. I mean, the Umbers, man, like they really came out really shitty, like Bannerman, man, like they were effed up all over the place. But when you look at the Umbers, they ended up killing, you know, basically Shaggy Dog. They gave Rickon over to the Boltons, and they basically used Shaggy Dog as proof to John and Sansa that they did have Rickon in like custody. And the reason that they killed him, of course, is because Shaggy Dog was the wildest of the direwolves and was not gonna let his boy Rickon get fucked around with in that manner. You know what I mean? You gotta put some respect on the Stark name. And since that wasn't happening, we saw that they had to kill Shaggy Dog. Now, it is interesting, right? Because the Starks weren't at their predominant place in the food chain, right? Like they weren't on top as they usually were, and we saw what ended up happening, right? But Rickon was one of the ones to embrace the Stark thing a little bit more, right? But still, at the end of the day, he ended up dying, and so did his direwolf. And it seems like, again, they parallel each other. They're very connected. Like once one of them goes out, the other follows soon. Or they, like, vice versa, you know what I mean? They do seem to be very connected. It seems like once something happens to one of them, the other one will follow. The only one that has gotten away from this in a way is Sansa. And it's interesting because Sansa was the first one to die. But then let's go straight up to our boy Brandon Stark. You might say, well, Bran's direwolf died, and, well, he's alive. Well, technically, he might be dead, or technically, he is alive, but he isn't at the same time, because, as we did see, that Brandon did die in that cave, basically. Once he learned or gained a bit more control over his abilities as the Three-Eyed Raven, the identity, the person who was Bran Stark, is no longer there. He says that he remembers what it was to be Brandon Stark. So to me, this kind of tells me that Brandon Stark is no longer really there. You know what I mean? Like, I think that it's more Blood Raven, or more, not Blood Raven, I think it's more the Three-Eyed Raven there than actually Bran. And that's why I think that him being alive while Summer died is okay in this scenario. But then you go and look no further than Arya Stark. Arya Stark is the poster child for an identity crisis. I mean, one day she is Faceless Man Assassin, and one day she is Arya Stark of Winterfell. And it is extremely crazy how she jumps back and forth between those two things. And I think that based off of that, we do see that when she bumped into Nymeria and her super pack, she understood what was happening with Nymeria, that Nymeria, you know, had her do her own thing. But I think that it's very interesting because I don't think we're going to see Nymeria again, but I think that the relationship between Arya and her family and her identity as Arya Stark is still kind of intact. So it is interesting that Nymeria is still alive, and I'm not saying that necessarily that is because she still sees herself as Arya Stark, but I am saying it is kind of funny that that is the way the things seem to be going down. Which leads us to our boy Ghost, aka Jon Snow's dog. And Ghost is the most interesting one, right? Because boy, is Ghost in a pickle. When you really look at it and everything is said and done, Ghost might have a very bad season 8. When you look at Ghost, right? Ghost is a loving direwolf. Like, he takes care of Sansa, he holds down the fort. Even though we never get to see it because he's not in the budget, we know that he's holding shit down at Winterfell. And it's interesting because we do know that Jon Snow kind of has a big thing when it comes to his family and his identity, right? We know that the whole am I a Stark, am I a Targaryen crisis will be on the way. And if this indeed is Ghost, trust me, buddy, you don't want to go out while Jon's having an identity crisis. Because if he leans a little bit more towards that Targaryen side, boy, you are dead. Then again, there is no reason to kill Ghost because they did admit that sometimes they killed the direwolves off just because of budget reasons. But I mean, hey, I don't see a scenario where Ghost could survive getting stabbed a million times. I mean, Ghost does not have the hide of a dragon. Like, his skin will get ripped to shreds by those whites. But it is very interesting, and I want to know what you guys think. Do you guys agree with me? If Ghost goes out to battle, how do you guys think he will fare? Do you think he will bite the dust, or in this case, bite the bones and then the bones stab him to death? You know what I mean? Get what I did there? Or will Ghost live to have, you know, hybrid puppies and dogs and shit for future children of Daenerys and Jon, and they will live happily ever after? I doubt it, but let me know in the comment section down below. But as always, guys, it's a true pleasure. My name is Ray, and peace.